The skill gap between each CS2 rank.
How good is a level 9 player? And
Not very.
what does a level 3 player look like? And are they at all close in skill
dog.
level? Well, over these past few days, I've sat down and watched demos from every level on FACEIT to answer one question. How big is the skill gap between each rank? Today, we'll be taking a close look at what every level on FACEIT looks like. So if you're a level 3 player wanting to get to level 10, I'll show you exactly what your gameplay
I was blame F.
And keep in mind, this is coming from someone with over 2,500 matches on FACEIT, all played after the release of CS2, climbing all the way from level 3 to
2,500 matches since CS2. Since CS2, this guy's no life, chat. This guy's absolutely no fucking life. And that's no disrespect, okay? That is ridiculous. I mean, he's 2,800 elo. It is NA, though. Yikes, chat. NA fucking face it. Are we being serious right now? But 2,800 elo is sick regardless. But 2,300 matches in what? When did CS2 come out? Does anyone know? It's like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, since CS2 released. So even if we say it's like 2.3 years, right? He's played basically 1,000 games a year. What's that? Let's say give or take, he's played like 3 games a day, every single day of the year. Holy shit.
Over 2,500 matches on FACEIT, all played after the release of CS2, climbing all the way from level 3 to being in the top 1,000 players in my region. But before we get started...
Wait. 2,800 elo is top 1k NA? That's crazy. I think in EU it's like 3.8 or something.
I want to quickly share with you a knife giveaway that I'll be hosting in the description.
Oh, thank you.
Let's get started. Elo bracket is filled with players at baseline. We must first take a look at level 1. And to no one's surprise, this Elo bracket is filled with players that demonstrate very little proficiency with basic CS mechanics. And it's also a place where players leave spawn on pistol round without armor or utility. Or if you're this guy, just with an R8 and a flashbang. I've noticed this in previous videos where you load Elo demos, and that is, players in this Elo range are chronically disconnecting. And not for 5 minutes, but rather after round 3 and for the entire match. If you're someone that's stuck in this rank, it's likely that you're very new to Counter-Strike, and for that, I cannot blame you. My biggest piece of advice is simply play the game more and to maybe check out some YouTube videos where you can learn some basic CS fundamentals so you can start building good habits. Moving on to level 3, the biggest change we see is in players' mechanics. Players are starting to aim more at head level sometimes and showing some level of understanding of player positioning. At this rank, we start to see...
At level 3? Players are starting to aim at head level. I've played with players who are like level 7 on FACEIT, who don't fully understand you need to aim at the fucking head. They're just those body spammers, you know? Like those fucking rats that just walk around the map just 3-bulleting you with the AK because they're just aiming at stomach height.
Dogs. Lineups being thrown. Of course, some of them are still missing, but regardless, an effort is being made to throw useful and effective utility. However, the glaring issue with this rank is an overall lack of awareness and respect of when and where an enemy can be somewhere. A prime example of this is the cap player who initially wants to support B, then decides to take a look mid, and without acknowledging the fact that their teammates have entirely forfeited mid, wide swings, and dives to a player hiding bench. I actually found it kind of strange how many match rooms I stumbled upon that had one or more players with the lever penalty applied. Overall, this is the rank where to some degree CS is starting to be played more seriously, and players are obviously more invested in winning, other than the AFKs, of course.
Level 3 is just the default rank,
let's take a moment to talk about the sponsor of today's video. This video is sponsored by Skin Club. Please keep in mind you must on every is long play with your. There are rotting. Please remember, is level 18 years or older play. Thank you, Skin Club, for sponsoring this video. The next rank we're going to be looking at is level 5. And there are 2 obvious changes outside of improved mechanics that I had noticed. One being, there's much more team play happening throughout the match. An example.
Yeah, I feel like at level 5, this is actually where people like want to start trying to get better at CS. Like everyone who I've ran into, whether it's in Premiere or Wingman or like some comp games, who were like bad, but like they were actually trying to play with the team and they wanted to improve and they maybe knew some util, was that kind of like 5 to 6, maybe like high level 4, right? But at the previous elo he's talking about, level 3, most people there are either just absolute fucking garbage or they're just not trying. Like they're just vibing in CS, right? Because I feel like if you are, because you start at level 3 on FACEIT, right? Or maybe it's level 2 now. But either way, like if you're actively trying to play Counter-Strike, like you just want to just play the game at a basic level, you will be level 4 or 5 on FACEIT. Unless you are absolute fucking dog water. Like if you are playing with a team and communicating and dropping and maybe you know a little bit of util and you're not, just throwing the game, you'll be level 4 or 5 on FACEIT. This is like the bare minimum of someone who actually just plays the game.
Of this is a player dropping a rifle to his teammate without a weapon. After that, they trade out their teammate's mid, go ahead and hit a 20 bullet COD reload, holy cow, and then attempt to trade another teammate who just died from heaven. These types of things can sometimes be done with minimal communication, but to be totally honest, after a decent amount of playtime, these sorts of things should just come naturally. Things like dropping teammates weapons mid-round, trading teammates out when they push for space, or just overall awareness of where your teammates are dying from are things that just come after several hours of playtime. The second thing I noticed was how
several is a bit of an understatement, but
in pretty much every demo I saw before this rank, players would behave in such a way that appeared that the game state hadn't changed once the bomb gets planted, when in fact it does. I'm not going to say these post plants are being played perfectly, however, comparatively to lower ranks, players are more concerned with the bomb rather than just continuing to W key for unnecessary space. With that being said though, there's still some awkward things happening throughout the match, such as missed utility, overall bad awareness, similar to level 3 players, and buying a
the missed utility, and I guess if it's a super consistent level, that's different. But like we even saw recently, I forget which event, I think it's at the current event, right? Like the one that's going on in London, Blast London. Vitality missed like 4 or 5 smokes in one map on like T side. Now, not always the same smoke, but like if they're missing that volume of smokes at a pro level, and I know that's not normal for Vitality or really any pro teams, but we do see it now and again. Like at level 10, for example, or like, 25 plus K Premier, smokes are missed all the time, and or people just don't know the fucking smokes, right? Like it's not even about missing them. It's just like, hey, can you throw the smoke? They're like, what fucking smoke are you talking about, bro? So like, I don't know. I kind of excuse this stuff,
on CT
especially at level 5
which
on
is a complete waste of money. And for those that don't understand, let me explain. A P250, while costing $300, now doesn't allow you to purchase armor and is less accurate of a pistol, while only providing similar benefits of keeping your USP. That being, it'll one-tap anyone that's shot in the head. Of course, the gun offers higher armor penetration, but if you plan on shooting people in the body, just buy dualies and play closer angles. In my opinion, there's no situation where purchasing a P250 is actually beneficial on a pistol round if you're a CT. Moving on to level 7.
100%. And also, like, the amount of gunfights I've been in of a P250 where the enemy has been crouched, not moving. I have been crouched, not moving. I have lined it up with their head, right? This is me with the P250. I'm lined up on the head, crouched, and I've just gone tap, 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 tap. And I didn't hit a single fucking bullet. Is unbelievable. And then I'll watch a fucking Zyru demo and he's sprinting across long dust 2 and insta-headshots a guy jumping across fucking sight. What's up with my P250 then? Huh? Why does Zyru have the magic P250? Don't fucking buy it ever, chat. Even on T-side, don't buy it unless you're fucking Zyru or Simple. Like, what's the point? Or Donk. Like, fuck it.
There are a few things that are very different from the lower levels. Starting out, it's not entirely uncommon to see people saving their guns. Along with this, for the first time, players are throwing flashes for one another and then actually using them. And compared to levels 3 and 5, overall awareness is much better, and there is a significant increase in overall mechanics.
Yeah.
However, one thing I did
100%.
notice in this elo bracket, which is also very common in levels 5 and below, is just simply poor decision making. A lot of rounds are thrown simply because players are making very questionable decisions on the map.
Yikes.
One of the examples that I found during this particular demo was this mid-rotate player. Early in the round, the cap player dies to an AWP top mid, and instead of respecting that the op could be posted watching mid doors, and instead of respecting the AWP that could be posted watching mid doors, he just swings top mid and dies to the opper he knew was already there. Or here, this player decides to
the thing is, chat, this doesn't just happen at level 7. This happens at every fucking level other than like maybe 3k elo. And even then, like at the end of the day, if it's not a pro match, people are just going to fucking take ego swings. Like maybe it's not as retarded as this one. Like the guy just seemed to like aimlessly walk out mid. But like at 2.5k elo, like people are just going to fucking dry swing, ego peek people, even if they know you're posted with an AWP. Because it's face it, man. It's matchmaking. It's like, it's not the major final. A lot of people either don't care or don't care enough to make sure that every single time that they're not doing that mistake, right? So, but at level 7, like he said before, like for sure, like this is, I feel like level 7 and 8 is full of a bunch of like aimers who are just retarded, right? That's what I think. That maybe they've got like 2k hours, maybe 2,500 hours. Their aim is crisp as fuck, but they've just not like mastered the game. That's what I think level like 7, even like low level 10, you'll see some like sub like 2.1k elo face it players who are all aim and have no fucking idea what's going on. And they don't even try to improve because they're level 10. They've just got this ego that they're just better than everyone. So
walk out B in a 4v3, which, don't get me wrong, isn't bad in of itself. However, deciding to make
what
footsteps
is this
here,
fucking
and
dog shit movement?
to not clear all the angles
Good clearing though.
Be in,
but that movement was
alternatively what they could have done
wank.
is simply commit to walk clearing the site or just group mid with their team in a man advantage situation. Remember, they're in a 4v3. And
yeah, 4v3 walking out is
this player decides
crazy.
to walk through a smoke long doors during an anti-eco. This was during a
I mean, that's fine if you just don't miss your fucking shots. Like, how many opportunities does this guy have to kill him? Let's get this in slow-mo, chat. How many opportunities? Let's see how many bullets he fired.
Walk through a smoke.
Why did he start shooting, chat? Can someone please explain to me why he pulled the trigger here? He started shooting. You could have slotted another person next to that teammate, and he still wouldn't have been on his head. That's mistake number one. And then let's see him just not even move the crosshair over to the enemy to continue to spray.
Long door.
Okay, first of all, how is he hitting him? How is there blood here? Second, put the crosshair on the enemy. It is a very, 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 very simple technique and thing to understand. Crosshair on enemy equal kill. Equal damage. What the fuck are we watching here? This had nothing to do with a misplay. Like, if you know they're on an eco, like, don't get me wrong, like, he shouldn't have walked doors. But if you're gonna walk doors, at least win the fucking gunfight against a guy crouching. He's not even running across your screen with his pistol. This guy insta-committed to a crouch. Not just did he not even put his crosshair on the enemy when he started shooting, not even put his crosshair on the enemy when he started spraying, but insta-committed to a crouch against a pistol that wasn't moving. Absolute fucking brazy behavior.
During an anti-eco. This was during a 4v2, so this risky kind of play can be justified to some capacity, but there are probably at least...
Chat, look how he came looking out the smoke.
So
look how he came looking out the smoke.
Can be justified to some capacity, but there are probably
what
at least
the
5
fuck
to
was
10
he
other
looking
plays
at?
that you commit to, one being just taking fights mid with your opper. A general rule of thumb is if the play feels wrong, it's probably wrong. All right,
yeah, that's true.
Let's talk about level 9. Without a doubt, the biggest improvement I saw specifically was crosshair placement and gun control. And I would just like to highlight this trend. One thing that is a common theme.
Like I said, it's the same as like level 7 and 8, but they're just like slightly better understanding of the game, usually significantly better aim, but they still don't have that deeper understanding. Like they're all aim, or sometimes it's the reverse, right? Maybe they've got like a really good understanding of the game, but the mechanics are quite bad. It's usually one of the two around this kind of level 9 to low level 10 kind of like area.
These ranks is the higher elo we get, the better players are at the fundamentals of CS2.
Yeah.
However, I will say the jump from level 7 to 9 in regards to crosshair placement and counter strafing actually caught me off guard with the improvement. But what I also noticed was players were
these guys are fighting to be level 10.
More utility, likely because at this rank, people start to really appreciate how utility can make a massive difference in how rounds play out. However, something that I also saw was because players were keen on throwing lots of utility, there were also a lot of misses or just overall questionable usage of utility. For example, this window player HEing themselves for 21 damage, which by the way happened like 6 different times during this CT side. Or when this opera started to get run down A, they decided to smoke jungle for the enemy team instead of repositioning sooner to be in a more advantageous angle. And that brings me to my last observation about level 9. While for the most part level 9 players in comparison to other elo brackets have much better crosshair placement, utility usage, general awareness amongst other things, they seem to often fall short in the department of positioning. If we take another look at this opera playing jungle, instead of repositioning to a safer angle, they decide to swing further into this exposed angle, which leaves them vulnerable if an enemy were to walk out palace through smoke. And of course, that's exactly what ends up happening. And of course,
yeah, but I don't think that's a lack of understanding. And don't worry, it could definitely be a lack of understanding. But I think it just goes back to what I said before. He's just ego peeking. Like, people do this at 3k elo. Like, he saw there was a guy ramp, palace was smoked, so he said, I'm just going to try and take a fight here and get a free kill. Like, if it was the major final, yeah, maybe he would have played a bit further back. Although, I will say, I think Zywi probably would have gone for this fucking peak as well. I think he would have had more support, right? But I think this guy just wanted to kill and just went for a fucking fight. Like, it has nothing to do with his understanding of the game. Or, I guess you could argue it's to do with, like, his discipline. But I don't think people are that disciplined at 2.5k.
Unfortunately, at this time, too, that's also when ramp players start to scale out of Tetris.
Especially
now,
like
I don't
fucking
really blame
NA.
this player for making this kind of aggressive play, especially when they have a teammate posted stairs watching Palace.
Yeah, exactly.
If we go back even further to 1 minute and 37 seconds, we see that's when we see our teammate die. At this point, you're confronted with two different options. Commit to fighting for sight or rotate to a different position that'll enable you to have a higher impact on the round.
Well,
if we take an even closer look, we see that our teammate here also
here's already the bad thing, chat. If you look at the map up here, okay, they've got two AWPs, like he's just said, right? Both of them are playing from here. They've got a teammate in ladder who we're assuming is watching a con walk up or could drop and watch a con walk up, right? So this guy here should drop, watch a con walk up. He can also jump back up to short if they start scaling, if you can hear them scaling. But they're giving up B, right? This guy should probably fall back to jungle. So they've got two around this area, okay? This guy here, the guy that we're watching, realistically needs to do one of two things. One, if they're not sure if the team's going A or B, he should get out of jungle.
Closer look.
What the fuck? I accidentally play. He should go out of jungle and he should watch the cross here on B, right? And that's the short guy coming up. So this guy here can watch the con walk up. This guy in jungle, and this guy watches window as well. This guy can just watch across sight, so they can't get across sight. This guy here that we're watching watches across B, right? That's your ultimate solution. If they know they're committing to A, everything is the same, but instead of going B, this guy wraps around and plays ticket. That because they're two AWPs here. He's right. They shouldn't be playing two AWPs here.
We see that our teammate here also has an
He's
AWP,
probably going to say the same thing.
Makes the fight that we're likely going to get into close stairs from someone jumping over sandwich or just scaling from ramp more difficult and risky, especially considering the Palace player can come out any second like we had already mentioned. What could have been done in this situation is simply rotate through CT, which on Mirage is actually very valuable space to be taking during a retake. And an added benefit to that as well is that if you're holding an AWP, taking CT is probably the best position you can be in here other than deep jungle. There you can go back to mid window, wait for T's to start scaling sight, which will likely result in a free kill if the enemy doesn't do their chores and smoke off jungle. Oh wait, we did that for them. Moving on to level 10. But before we get started with this rank, I want to quickly explain what elo bracket we're actually looking at. Instead of pulling a demo from low level 10, which is about 2,000 elo, I decided to look for something a bit higher. So the demo that we're looking at is actually from 2,400 elo. The reason for this is the same reason why we jumped from level 3 to 5, 5 to 7, and so on. If we take a look at low level 10, it would be almost indistinguishable from level 9. The only difference in those players sometimes is just a few wins. So instead, we're looking at players that have established themselves in this rank and will likely not drop below 2,000 elo again. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at the round that put this game into overtime. First things first, like every other time we moved up in the ranks, we see players have better fundamentals such as crosshair placement and counter strafing. But what we also see, and I'll highlight this more later, is players shooting through smokes successfully way more often, which simply shows their game sense and awareness of enemy position. Something else I want to take a look at is just how quickly the round shifts after the site is taken. Almost immediately once available, the bomb planter puts down the C4, and if we take a look at the other players, they're instantaneously going into post-plant positioning. The only time players start moving more aggressively is once the last remaining CT's position is discovered and there's only 20 seconds left on the bomb. And speaking of playing post-plant, something that I also noticed, which was different from all other elos, is where these players are planting the C4. Consistently, when presented the opportunity, these players are planting the bomb in locations that will enable them to play more effectively in post-plant. The first example is during this 2v2 where this player decides to plant opposite default and then go ramp, which in my opinion is a very undervalued plant location, and also somewhere if you pay attention, you'll often see pro players plant at. Unfortunately, this player lost the round, but in all honesty, it was played very well. Another example is when this player plants front sight. Once the smoke wall is up, planting here gives the same benefit of planting opposite default, and after planting, he makes an educated guess on where the enemy is and gets a spam through on jungle, which is something I mentioned earlier. Out of all the elos we've already seen, I saw this the absolute most starting in this elo. The reason behind this is just due to the amount of reps that these players have playing the game. They understand most of the time what is going through the enemy's head and where they likely are given the information they have. Now, the only negative I can find during this demo is perhaps how these players are swinging. There were a couple instances where I saw players crab walking or slow walking into angles, but this was few and far between. I will say though, at least from my experience playing in this elo, the biggest downfall that I see in a lot of players is how easily some of them will tilt. I can't even be...
I do wonder, chat, if he's looking at NA or EU, right? Because according to him, if this is 2,500 elo NA, these are like some of the best players in North America, right? If this guy's 2,800 elo and he's top 1,000, like clearly top 1,000, like ranked 600, these guys is probably top 1,000 NA, right? Whereas 2,500 elo in EU is just like your average level 10. Like you would kind of in like I haven't played Faceit. I've played like 10 Faceit games since CS2. Like all of my Faceit was played in Go, where it was obviously harder than it is now. But either way, like I'm 2.2 something K elo, right? 30K Premier last season, whatever, right? I think realistically, I'm probably around this, like that 2.4k elo face it, EU. But like, I would get fucking clowned for that. Like, I know people that in a matchmaking lobby will get laughed at for only being 2,500 elo. Like in EU, 3k elo is like the bare minimum for like a really high tier player, or at least close to like 2.8 plus. And even then, you're not even top 1,000 EU, right? You've got to be like 3,500 elo to even be considered to be in the top 1,000 EU. Like it's just different gravy. And then also on top of that, like, is a 2.5k elo NA player the same as a 2.5k elo EU player? I mean, maybe they are, but maybe they're not, right? So I'd be intrigued to see if I assume he's looking at specifically NA, but I'd be intrigued to see kind of what regions he's looking at.
I've played that could have easily been won if someone or several people hadn't given up after a few unlucky rounds. And from my experience, the higher elo you get, the worse players tilt. Oh, and I almost forgot. Why are people still buying head armor when they know without a doubt the enemy team will have AKs?
I'll be honest,
I still lose. This is the first round of overtime. You know they're going to have AKs. Okay, moving on. Now we can finally take a look at what top 1,000 pugs on Faceit look like. Keep in mind that all these demos were pulled from Europe, so the average elo of this lobby is
okay. Let's see what he says. So what's the average elo here then?
Pugs on Faceit look like. Keep in mind that all these demos were pulled from Europe, so the average elo of this lobby is approximately 3,500.
Yeah, there you go. Those are 3.5k. Okay, so he is looking at NA, which I think EU rather, which I think makes more sense because there's a bigger pool of players, so you get like a more consistent look at what that rank is. Because like NA, for example, let's say there's a third of the players playing. A level 7 is not going to be as competitive to get to in NA as it is in EU. So I'm glad that he's looked at EU because it's just the biggest pool of players.
CS fundamentals are almost flawless at this rank, but something that caught me a little off guard was just how good everyone's movement is. Like in this clip. Something as simple as crouch jumping on Xbox and then quickly jump uncrouching to peek short just isn't something you normally see in lower elos. Not only that, but the overall ability to aim in this elo is, without a doubt, much better than any elo
What the fuck did he see there?
And during the same clip, we can highlight just how good the crosshair placement is when this person scales A. Their crosshair just kind of never leaves exactly where it should be. Players in this rank are also very aware of how nades fly once they leave their hand. A good example of this is this player who blows open the smoke mid. In circumstances where a lineup isn't feasible.
Chat, I am so fucking dog shit at blowing up smokes. I am so bad. I get fucking clowned for it so much. I've been in front of smokes and literally just underhanded a fucking HE and it's still not fully blown open the smoke. And we just stood there just looking at a fucking a fully bloomed smoke with just a hole in it.
These players appear to be very confident to throw utility exactly how they intend to. And finally, let's talk about game sense. Before we saw that level 10 players in 2,400 elo are aware of players that are behind smokes, and of course, so are these players. But something that is even more impressive is this play long. Once they have long control, they are aware that when the smoke is up, the only way they can lose long is if the enemy team decides to pop through the smoke. So this player plays anti for a moment, the pop happens, and then our player demonstrates a moment of trigger discipline before getting 4 and then just winning the round for their team. Overall, this elo is exactly what you expect from top 1,000.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you can't make that play in anything other than 3k elo because other ranks will legit just fucking charge through the smoke anyway. And maybe they do it 3.5k elo as well. But yeah, he's right. Like, playing anti-flash actually works at this rank because people are trying to play together. This is what I was trying to say. Like, 2,500 elo, people aren't making plays like this. They're kind of just playing just way more puggy CS with, like, there's people that just don't know util at 2,500 elo. At 3,500 elo, everyone knows util. Everyone knows pop flashes. Everyone knows fucking sight mollies. People just don't know that at 2,500.
Game sense, and pretty much every other aspect of what goes into great Counter-Strike. Oh, and one more thing. These players also rage. All right, for the last rank that we'll be looking at, we're going to be looking at pros. Tier 1 and Tier 2 salaried professionals are without a doubt playing CS on an entirely different level. Every mechanic that we've discussed so far in this video is on display at the most elite level. However, what is more difficult to see when watching them is their sheer level of game sense. For some players, it appears that when they peek angles, they just so happen to find players or get lucky and find timings. But what's really happening underneath the surface, more times than not, is these players playing 3 to 4 steps ahead of anyone that they find in their matches, which is usually other top 1,000 players. And if it isn't their superior game sense, pros...
Yeah, there's a difference between top 1,000 players and top 1,000 players who are also pros, right? Like, if you're good enough to be the same elo as a pro and face it, and you're just not a pro, then you're just fucking, it's different source, right?
Like Donk simply just run over these players like how
yeah,
he does.
Donk just plays it like it's fucking
By the way,
deathmatch.
in the demo we're watching, Donk's name is OQEMUXAT because he's in streamer mode, so just keep in mind that's Donk. Something else that I want to mention that I noticed and have mentioned in previous videos is how often Donk chooses to op in his matches. It may be surprising to some of you how great he is with this gun, but to be fair, if you've watched any amount of Donk pugs, you know he's picking up the op at least a few times in all of his matches. Now, a while back, I had a chance to play with Donk on NA servers while he was visiting for IEM Dallas in 2024. It was a great experience, and it was nice to have the opportunity to play with someone like him. I was even lucky enough to get matched with him twice. Once on Mirage, which was a good time and an easy win, and then another time on Vertigo, which was not so nice. Not because he was a bad teammate, but because this was also a game because Donk was such high elo. We got paired with 3 other low-level 10s at the time, and we're playing against a few 3K plus elo players and some other level 10s. And for me at the time,
like, people need to remember, Donk is backpacking pro teams. He backpacked a team through a major final. He's backpacked teams through big events against the best teams in the world. He can backpack you through a fucking face.
It was an absolute nightmare. I didn't feel comfortable competing against these types of players, and for Donk, it was just another Saturday where you had the chance to fry North American players.
Yeah,
the game ended 13-10 after he just willed us to a win, dropping 36 kills in regulation. After the game, I had this unsettling realization that the skill gap between low-level 10 and someone that plays professionally like Donk is so unbelievably massive. It even dwarfs the skill gap between level 3 and level 10 by a lot. All right, that's going to be it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. If you
all right, chat, that was a W video.